6.1 Roots and Radical Expressions. Let's go ahead and review properties of exponents. So go ahead and take some time to do numbers 1 through 6. Pause your video and then you can unpause it to check them. All right, go ahead and check these. Notice on number 2 and 4, you are taking the whole problem to a power, so we have to apply that exponent to the 3 and the x squared and the y to the third. Also on number 4, we're kind of doing the same thing. We first move our exponent to the denominator to make it positive, and then we take everything to the second power. On number 6, again, it was to the negative first power right away, so what you can do is flip the entire fraction and make it to the positive first power. From then you can just match up the variables with each other. Remember, anything to the 0 power is just 1. And then start with the highest exponent. So like if I look at the t's, t to the first power is on the numerator. So that's where we want to put our answer. So t to the 1 minus a negative 3. r to the negative first is bigger than r to the negative second. So I want it to end up in the denominator. R to the negative first minus a negative 2. All right, let's move on. Okay, radical. It's just some terminology here. What goes with what? Okay, the index is going to be the value that's out front. So we're looking at this example here. So the index this time is going to be 4. So we're trying to take the 4th root of 81. Okay, radical is just the name for the symbol. And then 81 would be the radicand. And then finally, the root would be your answer. All right, what are all the real cubed roots of 8? So what times itself 3 times is 8? So the cubed root of 8 is going to be 2. Okay, the cubed root of 0.008 is just going to be 0.2. Because if I take 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.2, we get 8, and then the decimal moved over 1, 2, 3 times. So 1, 2, 3 times would give us back to the answer we started with. Okay, the cubed root of negative 1,000. What number times itself 3 times is negative 1,000? Okay, negative 10 times negative 10 would be 100, times another negative 10 is 1,000, negative 1,000. So your answer should be negative 10. If you have a fraction, you want to think of the cubed root of the numerator and the cubed root of the denominator. So cubed root of 1, what times what times what is 1? 1. Cubed root of 27, what times what is 27? 3. So the cubed root of 127 would be 1/3. Okay, what are all the real 4th roots of 1? So if we are given the square root of 1, for example, we just say 1. But when we need to apply the radical, so for example, if I have x squared equals 1 and I need to take the square root of both sides, then I include the plus or minus. So since we are not given the root to start, but now I want to take the 4th root, I need to add the plus or minus here. So what numbers times itself 4 times will equal 1? It could be the number 1. But it could have also been the number negative 1. Because negative 1 times negative 1 is 1, times another negative 1 is negative 1, times one more negative 1 is 1. Okay, so that one would be plus or minus 1. Okay, what are the real fourth roots of -1? There are no real roots. Fourth root of -1. Okay, again, you have that, the fourth root, similar to the square root of a negative. All right, 256. So what number times itself? 4 times is 256. So what is the fourth root of 256? Okay, so kind of like we came up with that list of perfect squares and perfect cubes, you could come up with a list of what numbers to the fourth power, what would they be? So 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 would be 1. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2, 16. 3 times 3, 9, times 3, 27, times 3 is 81. There we go. 4 times 4 would be 16, times 4 is 64, times 1 more 4, 256. We could do 5 times 5, 25, times 5, 125, times 5, 625. So that'd be probably enough to kind of get you started with these. So what was the fourth root of 256? That was the number 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 gave us 256. But again, since we are applying that radical there, we can also take -4 times -4 times -4 times -4 and get 256. So we're going to say plus or minus 4. Okay? And the fourth root of 16 over the fourth root of 81. Again, the fourth root of 16, we can say plus or minus 2. Fourth root of 81 plus or minus 3. So plus or minus 2/3. All right, finding roots. So these ones, the radical is already here, so we do not need plus or minus, okay, for these ones, because the radical is already given. So we're just finding the principal square root or the principal fourth root. Feel free to look that up. Your book talks about it a little bit. Why do I put plus or minus for some of them and not for the others? So if the radical is already given, you just want the principal square root or the principal cubed root or things like that. But if you are applying the radical, then you need to add the plus or minus. So what times what times what is -8? That would be -2. Okay, square root of 0.04, 0.2. Fourth root of -1, there are no real roots. Okay, now this one, we can't take the square root of a negative, but since it's in parentheses, we can cancel the square and the square root just to get -2. Okay, what times itself? 3 times is -27. Why don't you guys try the last row? Go ahead and pause the video, try that last row. All right, go ahead and check those, and then we'll move on to the last section. Okay, this is stuff that we all did in the Chapter 6 preview, but you do have a couple problems like this on your homework assignment today, so just a refresher on this. So what is the square root of 16x to the 8th? Remember, we can break it up and do the square root of 16 and the square root of x to the 8th. Square root of 16, 4, square root of x to the 8th, x to the 4th. Okay, cubed root of a to the 6th, b to the 9th. Okay, so again, cubed root of a to the 6th is just going to be a squared. You can just divide those exponents or think about how many a cubes can I pull out front. B to the 9th, cubed root of b to the 9th would be b to the 3rd. Okay, again, feel free to write out your work in a way that makes sense to you. So the fourth root of x to the 8th would be x squared. The fourth root of y to the 12th would be y to the 3rd. All right, why don't you guys pause your video and try the last 3. All right, so go ahead and check those last 3. Do pay attention to what is the number in front of the radical. Remember, if there is no number, then that's just like a 2. It's a square root. Okay, but do pay attention to that because that'll kind of tell you how many you need to divide by or take out. All right, go ahead and get started with the assignment. There is some directions that say if you're doing the square root, you need the absolute value symbol. You don't need to worry about that. Okay, so don't worry about the absolute value symbols. Go ahead and get started.